Hello, my name is Jeff Rolka. I want to thank you for checking out my video. This is questions from comments 9. Getting up there in numbers, I do enjoy these segments, so I do not hesitate to grab a comment that I find and make a note of it, and then address it here in video format. I'm just going to get right to it today. Thank you if you've chosen to subscribe. If you haven't yet, I hope you'll do so. There are lots of ways to support this channel. Those are in the description, and a great thank you to my patrons on Patreon, who very much are a significant part of making this whole thing possible, where you can also get PDFs and MP3s. PDFs are kind of guides of the exercises that you find here on the video channel. First question. So they mention here about the video that I found this on. One of my favorites, love the sequence. Thank you. Jeff, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on other semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. Tongue trills, chew and hum, using a straw, sometimes called straw phonation. Puffy cheeks, what is their intended purpose, and would you recommend or not recommend, and why? An excellent question, a very well-worded question. Let's deconstruct it a little bit, and then let me get to the answer here. So first of all, semi-occluded is voice teachers' fancy way of saying that your mouth isn't just open while you're singing. So if your mouth's just open, then the air has an unobstructed pathway out. Whereas where it's occluded or semi-occluded, the mouth is either closed, such as when you're humming, or you're using a straw, or you are doing the lip trill, where the lips are alternately closing and opening. Those are semi-occluded and occluded types of vocal exercises. And the simple answer to your question is, if you happen to wear glasses, as I do when I'm not wearing contact lenses, and one of the arms on your glasses isn't working quite well, grabbing this screwdriver to fix it is not really going to help. There's not a world where these two things work together particularly well. This is still a fine screwdriver, and my glasses are still quite useful. But if there's a problem, I need the right tool. And that's where so many of these exercises, to me, kind of fall into place. The lip trill is an excellent exercise. It's particularly great for helping people getting used to going up and over and back down across the secondo passaggio, so that when they're getting their air flowing consistently, you can clearly hear that there is a constant stream of air, and you can hear that I'm going over the secondo passaggio or the break and coming back. In a vocalist that has really choppy phrases, ask them to do their melody with the lip trill. So saying, for example, if this were their melody, and you wanted to hear them do that with the lip trill, and it's choppy, their phrase is normally choppy when they sing the lyrics, you'd probably hear where it was all very much broken up. And that opens the door for the conversation of the vocal folds work best when there's a consistent flow of air. Can you do that arpeggio with a consistent flow of air? And so the lip trill in that instance becomes a very easy and immediate way to determine whether or not the flow of air is consistent. Lots of these exercises have similar types of advantages. Straw phonation I find to be particularly good at backing off the amount of force I am applying to the vocal fold, so that when I'm ascending across the secondo passaggio or into the zona di passaggio, so for example, the break or secondo passaggio for most male vocalists is somewhere between D4 and G4. That's kind of a wide range. The vast majority are going to fall between E flat and F sharp, give or take. It's the outliers that start to get into the further reaches of that span. So their secondo passaggio will be in there. The space below the secondo passaggio is the zona di passaggio. And for me, straw phonation is really great at working that area and making sure that I'm being just connected with the vocal fold without being too heavy. All of these exercises have their place, but we want to use them at the appropriate time. This is where, you know, your singing instructor can be very, very helpful if you have one, or asking questions like this. Although I don't know the specifics of your circumstances, I can still offer you some suggestions about the use of these. For one, the lip trill, not the end-all be-all of exercises, but very, very useful. Very good at helping vocalists to allow the vocal fold to elongate as they ascend over the secondo passaggio and conversely contract on the descent. It's great at checking the flow of air on longer phrases to make sure that you are in fact singing through each of the pitches as opposed to pulsing on them. Additionally, the lip trill is really, really good at diagnosing whether or not a vocalist is starting a phrase with proper abdominal engagement or support if you prefer, or ending a phrase with that same kind of support. Basically, the lips stop burbling. So you'll hear the vocalist start, and then it'll cease again. This is usually because the vocalist is neither engaging before singing, and they're in fact disengaging as they're getting ready to end the phrase. Neither of which are beneficial habits. We want to work through them so that we have good engagement throughout the duration of our phrases. Each of these exercises has similar benefits to that. Let's see the other ones that you've mentioned here. Puffy cheeks. I've only encountered this on one instance, and so I feel that I can only speak to that specific instance. But similar to the lip trill, if you can puff your cheeks out, you are in fact required to engage and create subglottic air pressure, a flow of air that's being obstructed by the lips. When you release it, that pressure rapidly decreases. But if you're required to then puff the cheeks out in between each pitch, you're then going to continue to create that subglottic air pressure, release, create, release. The benefit here is that the vocal fold, being unweighted by the column of air, has the opportunity to change shape, and then having the benefit of the air column once the pressure is reapplied and the lips open, you're singing that pitch, if ever briefly, with pretty good subglottic air pressure. This too can be very helpful at working through the transition across the secondo passaggio, the break. So the vocal folds get the opportunity to elongate or change shape, and then they have adequate airflow when you're singing. I hope that answers your question. Let's move on. I've been singing for a while now, and I'm trying to start listening to the sound of myself singing, but the problem is that no matter how much I listen to it, I sound terrible to me. My family and my voice teacher tell me I sound great, but the fact that I don't sound good when I listen to myself really messes with my confidence. Is there anything I can do for this? Quite possibly. It does depend on whether or not you're listening to yourself in the recorded capacity or you're listening to yourself in real time. There is a great discrepancy between the external sound of our voices versus what we hear internally. So if you're singing along thinking, oh, this doesn't sound very nice, particularly if you're singing in your upper register, this can oftentimes be because the internal sound, due to bone conductivity and resonances in the oral cavity, is much different than what's coming out of your mouth. So recording yourself can be very, very helpful in this capacity. That being said, the sound of our recorded voices can be somewhat disconcerting too, because we are not familiar with it until you've done it for a while. It pays to be patient with this process because this is a process. I would advise you to record yourself, listen back. It doesn't have to be a fancy recording, it can just be any old recording you like. That being said, thanks to my Patreon subscribers, I'm going to be able to start buying consumer grade and prosumer grade microphones and testing them out here on the channel. And then I'm going to give them away to the people who are subscribed on Patreon, ultimately. But the point here is that a very, very modest microphone on a mobile device or a modest external microphone will get you a little bit better results. This can allow you to listen and evaluate your voice objectively. I would advise you to record yourself on a one day or on a Tuesday, for example, and then listen on a Wednesday or the next day, by way of example. I think with time and getting accustomed to it, you can go back and forth between the two. So you can record something and then immediately listen back to it, record, listen back, and see where it is you're going and if it's satisfying to you. I am, of course, assuming that your singing instructor and your folks are not just being kind and generous and encouraging, though that too is really, really helpful. Especially from your singing instructor, I am assuming that they are giving you solid, objective feedback on your singing. So it pays to consider this carefully. They are trying to help you. They would not simply be telling you these things if it weren't true. That being said, it could also be somewhat of a progressive trueness, shall we say. For example, if you weren't able to match pitch on week 1, but on week 3 you're matching pitch very adequately, by way of shorthand, one might say, that sounds good, keep going. It's not objectively Whitney Houston or name your favorite star. It's just that you have shown progress, and ultimately that's what this is all about for all of us. All of us are in the process, in my opinion, and we can all do better and better. Additionally, there is the notion that when one has mastered a concept, they know so because they can always hear a little bit more. That what they're wanting to hear is just slightly outside of their grasp, and they've got to keep practicing and keep going towards it. It is possible that you're in that place. I don't know your singing. You haven't said if you're a beginner or professional or advanced or just a hobbyist or any of those things. But we can always kind of see a little bit further beyond where we're at. And that's what keeps us going, in my opinion, towards that, keeps us practicing, keeps us learning new repertoire and finding repertoire that challenges our ability to manifest that which is just outside our reach. Lastly, it may not be your singing. And this is where I think the roots of a lot of performance anxiety dwell, in that confidence is an aspect of how we envision our personage in this place and in this time, our internal concept. For different people, it manifests itself in different ways. I, like a great many performing artists, musicians, and people in this sort of performance trades, have had my battles and continue to have my battles with performance anxiety. I often feel a great sense of anxiety before I start to shoot these videos, even though it is just myself and a camera here in the room. I get that sensation of performance anxiety, and this is rooted very much in my own personal concept of worthiness and acceptance and things like that that don't really bear going into here. I am not suggesting that these are issues that you share, nor am I suggesting that you have them. But I would suggest you ask the question. Ask yourself about these things. Notice what it is that you sense when you are singing. Again, speaking for myself, frequently when I would take the stage, I really, really had to stay in the game for the first 2 or 3 songs because my overwhelming sense was that no one wanted to listen and that I should just stop and get off the stage. But as I carried on and got more habituated to the scenario, then those feelings would subside and my performance could then start to ease and get more and more fun and enjoyable, and I could really inhabit the performance space a lot more effectively. Again, that's my experience. I'm not suggesting that yours should be, could be, or is the same. But if you ask yourself those questions, you may find some deeper roots to why your confidence in the sound of your voice is affecting you, and perhaps look at it from both angles. Look at it from a record yourself and evaluate objectively angle, and look at it from a what am I sensing here? What am I feeling? What are my thoughts? What comes to mind when I'm going to sing or perform? What are my immediate emotional reactions? What are the roots of those? How can I answer for them? And hopefully that will help you to build confidence over time. One more point regarding confidence. If you are, again, you haven't said in your question, if you are new to vocal training or to this practice in general, I am a big believer that confidence comes with the ability to rely on consistent results. Hence why my channel is comprised so much of scale and pattern exercises designed to help smooth out vowel alignment, even out overall vocal performance. It's all in the guise of warm-ups, of course, but the goal here is to develop consistent singing so that you can rely on your instrument, whether you're feeling good, feeling bad, nervous, scared, feeling awesome, whatever. You're going to step on stage and feel very confident that your voice will deliver the goods. And in delivering those goods, it will build upon itself. So when you step on stage, and even though you're nervous, it goes all right, that makes it easier to step on next time, and so on and so forth. And even though the nerves may come and go, you'll be able to rely on the performance of your singing voice. I do hope this helps. My name's Jeff. Thank you so much for these great questions. Take really good care of your voices, enjoy singing, and hopefully we will see you again. Bye.